Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Deconversion Stories. And today I have the pleasure of chatting with my friend Torben, or do we just call you Ben? Because I see you put just Ben, right? So
yeah, either Torben or Ben. Ben is usually what I end up going by because it's easier for people to remember.
Right. My very first rat that I ever owned was named Ben. Not to be, but I just named it because I was a kid, right, when I got him, and I saw the movie Ben, right? So of course I had to name him Ben because it just seemed like the thing to do, and I was like 12. But anyway, I had another one after that, but not named Ben. Splinter, right? Well, apparently I might be doing some voice work with my friend Red Venture voicing Splinter. So
that's awesome. I used to do a little bit of voice work myself. So
did you? Yeah, It's a lot of fun. I've done it for Prophet of Zod a couple of times, and and I'll be doing it for Bionic Dance in the future. It's a lot of fun. But anyways, Ben, what we do here, as you know, is I talk to people about their journeys away from their previous belief systems. So basically what I ask is for people to take us back into the time when they were, still indoctrinated, and how that kind of happened, and what family life was like, and eventually those dominoes start falling and you find your way out. So I'll leave it to you. And then, like I said earlier, if you see me going like this, it means I got a question. So
yeah. So I come from a very, very religious household. My father works in ministry. He still does. Always has, as long as I've been alive. I don't know if you're familiar with any of those college ministries that are like on the college campuses with their tables out trying to get people to come to their youth groups, that kind of thing. Yeah. So my dad works, like, he's higher up in one of those. So has worked for one of them for a really long time. And so ministry has always been something that I've been like part of with my family. So when I was a kid, I accepted Jesus Christ at the age of 2. It just
yeah, sure you did. You just kind of went along.
I didn't know any different. And in fact, when I was in kindergarten, I was the evangelist kid because I would just talk about Jesus all the time. And in my defense, I didn't know that no one else believed in Jesus, or like I didn't know that other people could have any different beliefs. I just thought, oh, everybody knows this. So of course I was unashamed to constantly talk about it. But I was very sheltered from a young age, and I was kind of the good kid. Okay. Never really questioned anything. I was like, yeah, this is just how it is. But as I grew up, and I started meeting new people, it was very obvious that I kind of had judgment for anybody that didn't fit my worldview. And a lot of things, like, it stemmed from fear, I believe. A fear of hell, a fear of judgment from my community, and a fear of like being impure, like being unworthy. And it was funny because throughout that time, like, we're all told, like, if you trust in Jesus, you don't need to fear. But at the same time, that's all they're teaching you is fear. Like, the reason I accepted these things was because I was afraid not to.
Right.
And so kind of going into college, of course, everyone, you go out into the real world. And I started off in a theater program. I was a theater major, and I had done theater for a long time. Cool. But I pursued that because of the concept within religion of your calling. Like, everyone has a calling, something that you're good at, that you're going to use to serve the Lord in the best way that you can. And so I thought I was gifted in theater. So therefore it was my calling to pursue acting. But I knew in the back of my mind, I wanted to do medicine. But I just thought that you had to be somebody special and God had to call you out to do medicine. And so my friends who were pursuing medicine, I was like, they just know that God is calling them to do medicine. So I didn't do anything with that. I was like, I'll be good and I'll stay in my little theater zone. But then it occurred to me that it was a choice,
Mm-hmm.
that they chose to make a decision to go into medicine, and then I could make the same choice as they did.
Sure.
So I changed my major to biology, and this is kind of when the first straws began to break for me.
Okay.
And I was nervous going into biology because, of course, like big bad atheist teaching you evolution in class, and like, what am I going to do when somebody teaches me about evolution in biology? And learning about evolution, things just didn't make sense in my worldview. Like, I learned that evolution wasn't what I was taught it was, and maybe God and evolution aren't mutually exclusive, and I could believe in both at the same time.
Okay.
So I started opening my mind up more and more to skepticism, learning about the scientific method and how we can evaluate claims. And I carried over into my religion because I wanted to know if what I was believing was true. And I would get heavy into apologetics and think, okay, but this argument, like, why don't we use the books of the Bible that the Catholics use? Or like, why are we using different scriptures? Who made these decisions? And a lot of times people couldn't answer those questions, and answering questions about science, learning the fossil record and what we know about like human evolution. And because that was a point when I knew human evolution was real. Like, there's no doubt about it. And so
the funny thing is, even if there were no fossils, like none, we'd still know because of DNA and genetics.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So trying to ask these questions of, so if we know this is the evidence, what are the answers that Christianity has to fit that in? And I learned that people just didn't care. They had the evidence right in front of them and they didn't care about it. Yeah, exactly like that. And so then I kept, for some reason, like, I'm a stubborn person and I don't like to be like, I don't like to change my mind on a lot of things. So I stayed in, and then the next straw that broke was I traveled to India on a mission trip, and I spent a lot of time learning from people about my role as a woman, and like, which I'm trans, so I'm a man, but either way, I couldn't wrap my mind around the fact
bringing
that
bow ties back too, by the way.
Oh yeah, bow ties are cool.
You and Matt Smith.
Oh heck yeah, Doctor Who is amazing.
Oh yeah. I'm listening to the old radio plays on the Audible app at work actually right now.
Oh, that's awesome! I love it.
Yeah, they're so cool. They're hilarious. Carry on. Sorry.
I couldn't understand why a good God would create a whole like subset of humans that were designed to be inferior. Like, even though it clearly wasn't demonstrated that they were, but it's just, oh, well, you're just not as good and you got to deal with it. It's like, okay, I'm not super content with that. But I mean, I held on and I held on. And then there was a point when everything just crashed. And this was a really difficult experience for me. So I was studying biology at the time. This was in 2015. And I went on a field trip I wasn't even in this class, but I went with my friend's class. He was in forensic chemistry. And we went on a field trip to shadow the medical examiner at the coroner's office. And I was doing okay, like, going into it. I had worked with cadavers before in anatomy lab. Like, it was nothing unusual for me. But that autopsy that we watched that day, just, it hit a lot different than anything else. It's very different when you have somebody who's 94 and they died of some medical cause.
Yeah.
But when you have somebody who's 19 years old in front of you, that died 12 hours ago from a heroin overdose.
Yeah.
It puts a lot of things in perspective. And it was the first time I had ever seen somebody who had died that was younger than me. And I'm sure you know that in the church, they're very sheltering of you and they don't really talk about death. It's not something that we come into contact with regularly. It's just like, you're going to go to heaven and it's going to be great. And like, don't worry about it. Like, it's fine. But seeing it in front of you. Yeah. And like, I feel like a lot of these people haven't looked death in the face. They haven't seen it like in its raw form and seeing this 19-year-old, and I got an existential crisis. Like, and this lasted for a long time. I just couldn't stop thinking about what is reality? Like, what even are we doing? Like, if this is the end result, like, we're all going to end up on one of those tables.
Yep.
In some way or another.
Yep.
And this person was so young. Like, did she even have a chance? Like, was she given the tools in her life to understand the decisions she is making? Did she, like, did she have a chance at all? And there are some other things that I saw with this case. She had most likely had a coat hanger abortion, and it was like a lot of very terrible things that no one should have to go through.
Right.
And it just didn't make sense to me why some people would get so many chances and could make so many decisions and still end up living a full life. And then this one person who maybe didn't even know what was going on couldn't get the same chance. And it just broke everything that I had thought about existence and what all this was about. And so I think that was the biggest thing that caused me to start spiraling out of religion. And this kind of continued. I became an EMT after I graduated from undergrad. So I worked as an EMT for 2 years before starting medical school. And this kind of same thought process kept coming up. There were, I responded to so many calls where people had died. And one of them was a baby, a 5-month-old baby. And it was a freak accident. Baby was breastfeeding and then choked. And that was the day we had to tell a mom that her baby was dead.
Oh boy.
And like, this was a case that it was total accident. Like, no one did anything wrong there. But how can stuff like that happen? Like, that baby didn't get a chance.
Yeah, nope, nothing at all.
So it just, like, questioning existence, questioning reality, questioning how people can claim that their God was up to any good, and then this stuff was happening. It just didn't make any sense. And then, to top that all off, I started questioning my sexuality and knowing that I could no longer fit in with the community that I was raised in. And I had essentially, this was like really the most final thing that finally got me to just say, no, we're done. Because if I couldn't have the community that was supposedly looking out for me, then what even was the point anymore? And I remember coming out to my family as gay, and they don't even know I'm trans yet. So that's a conversation we'll get to. But I came out as gay at the same time that I came out as atheist, because it was kind of a forced coming out. I was still living with
forced,
them.
Like, what do you mean forced?
Yeah, it was. I was still living at home, and because this was before I went to medical school, and I wasn't going to church anymore. Right. And my parents essentially said, you need to start going to church or a Bible study or something.
Nope.
And I was like, well, that's not going to happen because I don't believe this anymore. And then that was the time I came out as gay as well, because they prodded a lot. And I just was like, you know what? We're just going to tell them everything right now because I don't have to do this again later. So I came out as atheist. I came out as gay. My family was not happy with that. We're on decent, like we're still on good terms. We don't talk about it.
Okay.
At all. And so I don't know what I'm going to tell them.
You mean they don't talk about it?
Yeah, they don't talk about it.
Because I'm sure you'd be happy to, but they don't understand it because they've been living with the idea that it's sinful. So. Yeah,
and my mom especially is very. I know it scares her that I don't believe anymore, and I'm sure that she still prays for me every day and hopes that I'm going to come back. And I know I'm not, because I look at the world differently now, and there's no way that I can undo learning what I have.
Working so far, all that prayer.
Right. And it's, so I don't know when I'm going to come out to them as trans. I know it's going to happen eventually. I started T this week. So, but I think my coming out as atheist and me learning more about myself and who I am as a person, finally meeting myself for the first time after I came out as trans a year ago. So like 26 years. It's been amazing for me. And I started my YouTube channel because I was watching ACA shows for a long time. And like, as I was going through this process, and then Transatlantic started being a show, and I kept seeing people in the comments. It's a great show. Yeah. But I started seeing people in the comments, and lots of people trying to call in about sex being binary and all this stuff. And and I was like, I kept saying in the comments, somebody should give them an embryology class. And I was like, hold on a sec. Yeah. Like, I could do that. Like, I could just make videos about embryology, and I could get that information out there. So in March, I started a YouTube channel called Student Dr. Ben, and I talk about trans issues in medicine. I kind of have two facets to my channel almost, and it's just been a great way for me to make the world a better place, because I feel like I didn't do that when I was in religion. So one facet is medical resources for trans people. So talking about trans issues from a medical perspective, and also like different methods of transition, and talking about biological sex, things like that. And then I also have the other side of the channel, which is talking about trans issues for the medical community. So talk about how doctors can do a better job in advocating for trans people. And I think my plans for medicine, I don't know exactly where I'm going to end up, but I think I'm looking at doing something with trans advocacy in my medical practice.
That'd be fantastic.
And, that's kind of where I'm at now. I know it's not a super interesting story, but.
Well, I have questions.
Yeah.
How long, like, when did you actually realize that you were trans and not just gay, or however that goes?
And that was an interesting thing, because looking back on it, I probably knew around like age 7 or so. Like I can tell way back then when I intrinsically felt that I was a guy, and that I, especially being in theater, knowing that I identified more with playing a male character, and I would just subconsciously put myself in the mailbox when putting myself in the box, defining myself as a guy, as opposed to defining myself as a woman. And that just, I don't know why I didn't notice that whole time. But I think I was scared to realize that I was trans. Like, I was kind of protecting myself because I knew that it was becoming more okay to be gay. Like, people were starting to open up to the idea. And then I had friends that were trans, and it was like, I was still religious. So I was like, oh no, trans, like we have to pray for them, pray the trans away.
Yeah,
we don't do that. Like, you were made male or female in God's image, and we don't mess with that. But I knew that I identified with them and their journey, and I was kind of jealous that they were able to take these steps and I couldn't.
Right.
And then realizing later, like, wait, maybe this is me.
Well, I think ultimately you came to that conclusion. And
I did, and I'm happier for it.
Swallowed the wrong way. Pardon me.
Please don't do that.
Yeah, I know.
This is not medical advice, but don't do that.
No, I know that. Well, this is God's grand design, right? Let's put the feeding tube by the breathing tube. What a
that's something too. Yeah.
idea.
You can't make any arguments that, like, okay, people love to use especially the eyeball as an example of why creation is so perfect. But studying medicine, there's so many ways everything can go wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and if anybody studies embryology, maybe I need to do a series in embryology about everything that can go wrong and why creation is not great, because
eyes are perfect.
Yeah, like, it all goes wrong. Like, unfortunate as it is, there's so many, like, there are conditions where a baby can be born without most of their head, and it's like, how does this process work perfectly again? I don't know.
Oh yeah, I exactly. It's a good question, Joseph, and good to see you, man. Is God male or female, or male and female? Well, they portray him as a male in the Bible, which is why Hector Garcia wrote that book Alpha God, because it's based on the alpha male type thing. And if we're all made in God's image, how come all of us don't have penises?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, and apparently you all have an extra rib, or you have one less rib or whatever. I don't know.
No, we don't.
Somebody has an extra rib, which has not yet been demonstrated. So I'd love to see evidence on that.
Well, it's supposed to be one less in the men because one was used to make Eve, but it's not true. It's horseshit. Unless originally we had extra ones until he used that one, and now we all have the same normal whatever amount.
Which wouldn't make any sense, because if you were genetically programmed to have 8 or like an extra rib, then, like, I don't know.
I don't even know how many I have.
You should have 12
per side, right?
Yeah. Yes, I don't know. That's a weird one.
Phoebe, I'm proud to not have a penis anymore. Yeah, that's one thing I kind of always wondered when it comes to operation time for trans folks. Mm-hmm. Apparently, it's easier to go from male to female than the other way around. And also, they now have an operation where they can put uteruses inside trans women.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I have to look more into that, because I'm not super well versed in that. But I am working on research projects under gender affirming surgeons. So 2 surgeons out in LA. One's a urologist, one is a plastic surgeon. And we're specifically studying how medical schools teach about trans issues. So we're talking more about the educational side. But the history of these surgeries is pretty interesting. And you're correct in that it is easier to build typical female anatomy versus typical male anatomy. And in fact, like the cases where people have been forcibly transitioned to female because of botched circumcisions went that way because back then, like, people didn't know how to make a penis. So like a phalloplasty is such a new thing. It is. Yeah.
But it can be done now.
Yes.
Right. And
it's still it's a pretty risky procedure, actually. But yeah, it can be done. Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't told this by an expert by any stretch, but it came up in a conversation I had with a friend of mine. Apparently they can actually put in nerve endings so that there's feeling in there and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's pretty complicated. And I'd have to look up a lot of the mechanisms of that. But it is true that they're working on getting better sensation in those areas. And I think it's more favorable too with the graft from the arm, like from the forearm, than it is from the thigh or anything. So yeah, that's some good development in that way.
My neighbor just popped into the chat, Zoltan.
Oh, nice. Hi,
He lives
Zoltan.
upstairs. He's a good guy. We chat about Star Trek and stuff out front when I'm out there playing my Star Trek game.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you see, I went and made the mistake of downloading Star Trek Fleet Command or whatever the hell it's called.
Oh,
and, yeah, I've already spent a stupid amount of money on that game. Yeah.
Games will do that to you, though.
I know. Pokemon did it to me. Yu-Gi-Oh did it to me. Now Star Trek. It's like all these people are making so much bank off me. It's not even funny.
Oh, for real.
So now, so you came out as gay and atheist at the same time, which do you think they took harder?
The atheism, 100%.
Yeah, I hear that like all the time.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think too, there's some
that way.
Weird assumption that like if I wasn't an atheist that I wouldn't be gay, which I don't know. Like I guess if they somehow think that if I corrected my atheism, then the gayness would just go away.
It doesn't fucking work that way.
And sure. it doesn't. And in fact, like my mom did present me with resources about deconversion or de-gaying. And she sent me stories of people who like prayed the gay away and it worked. It was like, it's not how this works. Like sexuality could be very fluid, and it's possible that these people were more sexually fluid, and like
now they're suppressing that side is what's going on.
Yeah. And it just
peer pressure almost.
Yeah, like there are multiple reasons why this person could have had the story that they did. And sure, some people might be happy doing that. I don't know why, but but it's like, it's not for everybody, and definitely not for me. So, and even so, even if I were to like marry the perfect person that my family would want me to, I can't do that. Like I can't be with somebody that's going to be like a godly husband, like that's going to let me be his helpmeet or whatever the weird language is. Like those women's Bible studies are so cringy, and I'm sure you've never had to sit through any of them, but they're horrible. And something I noticed too, a lot of the Bible studies I was a part of, all of the women there were the same personality, just like in different bodies. And so they like all agree to like these same things. They're like, oh, well, I'm just waiting for my whatever, pick, insert like famous Christian here person that they should be looking out for. And like, I don't know how any of them could be so excited to like be somebody's helpmeet, but for some reason, like they all were so excited to like play that role in someone's life. I'm like, I mean, that's fine, but like, why do you need to force that on me or anybody else? Like, why can't that just be a personal preference that you have for your life? And it just, I don't know, it's kind of wild, like the Kool-Aid that you drink in those settings.
Yeah, for sure. You just started tea. You said like just last week it was, right?
It was on Monday.
Oh, just this week it started.
Yeah,
okay.
this week.
Okay. How's it going so far?
It's going all right. So like not a lot of like physical changes have been obvious yet, but
you noticed it?
Yeah, emotionally that hit super, super quick. Like, I mean, the day of, I was very emotional because it was something I've been waiting so long for. But then, like, I don't know, my emotions have mellowed out a lot. I haven't felt anxiety. Like, I've had so much anxiety for the past few weeks. And I'm sure this is a combination of the hormones itself, like having the hormones that I know that I should have. And then also knowing that my journey is actually happening, and I'm not waiting any longer if it's going to happen or when it's going to happen. It's actually happening. So I've just had no anxiety, and it's been really nice so far. I just feel normal. Like, I don't know if I've ever had a time where I felt normal before. So that's new.
So I guess, see, I obviously I've never had to take them or have taken them for any reasons, but is that sort of I guess normal as in you start to feel like you should have been feeling the whole time? Is that what you mean by that? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Like how you imagine going through life where it's just like, yeah, I exist and I'm doing my day-to-day stuff and I don't have to think about my gender all the time. Like, you don't have to think about how uncomfortable you feel in your body, and you don't have to think about, like, I don't know, being on the wrong hormones. Just, it's really hard to explain. You just kind of feel this constant, like, being foreign with yourself. Like, just something's not right, and you can't always, like, put a pin on why it doesn't feel right, but it doesn't feel right. And so just being able to go through life and not notice anything, just exist. It's nice.
And feel like you are.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. See, because, I've always felt that way, clearly, because I'm, you're, whatever the terms are, cis, het, whatever, I'm just a dude, right? So I could never imagine what it's like being in a position where you're just uncomfortable with who you are. I mean, I've put myself into uncomfortable positions before, like situations before, but that it's not even close, in my opinion, I don't think. But so anyways, my lead up is to congratulations to finally being yourself.
Oh, thanks.
And that's basically where I'm going with this. So, you mentioned earlier that you and the family don't really talk about this anymore, but do you think you notice a definite change in how they treat you, or do they just kind of shuffle all that aside in their little brains and treat you the way they always have?
They treat me the way they always have. But whenever I'm home, they still pray and they do all their stuff like as they normally would. And I don't make a big deal out of it. I just, like, let them do their thing. I don't really participate, but it's whatever. And then I don't go to church with them when they do, if I'm back home visiting. But I mean, you can kind of tell there's some tension when anything like that is brought up. And I think that they know that there's tension. But other than that, it's like, they treat me pretty much the same as they always have.
It's good. Do you think they fear losing you if they put a little pressure on you?
They might. Yeah. And I wonder what being trans is going to do to the relationship, because I know that, like, they love me and they want to keep a relationship, but at least, like, being gay and being an atheist are things that you can, like, are not immediately obvious to everybody else. Like, there's not a lot of saving face that you need to do with the public. But if I were to come home with a deep voice and a beard and I say, my name's Ben, and, like, I'm your son, I want you to refer to me in this way. Like, that's something obvious that now they have to confront it with their peers and the people that, like, all of their circles are very, very religious as well. And these are people that I've known since I was little. And so if I were to reintroduce myself to those people, how are my parents going to be viewed by their circle? And I don't, and I don't know, because, like, these people, they have good intentions a lot of the time, but you don't notice the toxicity until you start to break away. And then that's when people start acting weird with you. So I have no clue what's going to happen.
A lot of bullshit could be cloaked in good intentions, I'll tell you that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to think about it. It's like, now you're showing a little concern for your folks', for lack of a better term, reputation amongst their peers and community. But let's face it, you're going to eventually have to go through with this.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's already started. Like I've committed to this.
Good.
And the thing that it's kind of pushing me forward is the idea that like it's either I can be unhappy and meet their expectations, or I can be happy and kind of do what I know is going to give me the best life possible that I can have. And like when I was coming out as trans to myself, it was this battle of if it weren't for anybody else, like if I didn't have to worry about anyone else's opinions or anybody else's judgment, what decision would I make for myself? And the obvious answer to me was I would transition.
Right.
So then I have to think about that, and as I make any decision, and just say this is the right decision for me, and I shouldn't worry about what they all think. And I'm pretty good at blocking other people out. So, and I'm not afraid to cut ties when I need to. So,
yeah, I'm really good at that too. It actually started when I worked in a record store. Oh yeah, because I learned how to block out music because some of the folks would play some stuff that I just didn't care for. So
yeah,
and then you just sort of learn how to block out customers and the same ones who come in and want to go through the whole routine every time. And yeah, so a lot of that stuff you see on like movies like Clerks or something.
Yeah, like, and if someone's not good for your life, then like there's no point in really. I mean, like if someone means a lot to you, you can maybe try to salvage a relationship. But if someone has no intention on letting you live your best life and they're not willing to meet you at all in that, then I mean, there's no point in keeping them around. So, I mean, I'm hoping that doesn't happen with my family. But if it came down to something, I'm not financially dependent on them. Granted, I'm very financially dependent on the government at this point in time. I sold my soul to the army, which I guess that's another interesting thing. I'm trans and in the army.
Right. I was going to bring that up eventually, by the way.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I am in debt to other people, but not to my family. So that's good. Like if I were to cut ties with them, I wouldn't be in danger of anything. In fact, I live in a different state than my family. So. Okay.
Yeah, that's one thing they can't hold over your head.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. I mean, my mom likes to, well, not anymore, but she used to like to, how much it costs to raise a kid? To me all the time. Yeah, Mom, I got a fairly good idea. And this is back in the 80s, and it costs something like $1.8 billion over 18 years to raise a kid or some shit. And that was back in the 80s at that time.
Oh, dang.
So it's got to be even more now, right? So
yeah,
everything's ridiculously expensive, but yeah, that was sort of going to be the next sort of avenue I wanted to explore with you is what was that like in the military? Like, how did that work?
Yeah. Okay. So I accepted the military scholarship for medical school before I came out to myself as trans and before I came out to anybody else as trans, obviously. So there's a scholarship program with all the branches of the military, except for the Marines don't have one because they use Navy doctors. But basically, if you get accepted into medical school, you can go through the military and they'll pay for all of your school and they'll give you a stipend. And you just pay them the time back. So I owe them 4 years for paying for medical school, which my medical school tuition is $73,000 a year. And that's just tuition. So it adds up very quickly. So it was the best financial decision for me to go through the military. And I was like, okay, cool, fine. And then I start figuring out, wait, I'm trans. And this was during the Trump presidency when it was not allowed to be openly trans in the military. So I was worried about what that meant for me. I was like, well, okay, so I have to make a decision because my scholarship hadn't fully been processed yet. Like I had said something that I would take the scholarship if I was accepted, but I hadn't yet been accepted. So I was like, I could either just leave and take the debt with the government, like be $400,000 in debt and be openly trans, or I can stay in the military, like take the scholarship, hope that things change in the next few years, or just be in the closet for however many years that I owe them, which I technically owe only 4 years, but 99% of medical students in the Army match into an active duty residency. So that adds minimum 3 years on that that doesn't count as your payback, but you're active duty doing medicine. But you can't be deployed during that time. So at least like you're at your home institution. But that's still 7 years before I would have been able to transition then. So I was like, you know what, we need to make the best decision for me, and medicine is what I want to do with my life. Like, and even now I would be in the closet, and if that was the only way to do medicine was to be in the closet, I would do it because I love medicine. This is the one thing that I want to do with my life. So it was an easy decision for me. I picked the Army, and then the ban got lifted.
Yay!
And it was one of the best days because now I could be open. And so I started looking into medically transitioning, but they said, no, you have to go to active duty training this summer. So let's wait a little bit, get you through the training, and then
go
see what happens from there. So I go to Army training, and it was supposed to be 6 weeks. It was 2 courses that were each 3 weeks long. And it was a weird experience going through the first 3 weeks because I was considered to be female on all accounts. They used my dead name, which is not my real name. I legally changed my name in February, but I needed more documents to be ready before I could get it changed with the military. So they still have my dead name. And in order to change your gender with the military, you have to be on hormones for at least 12 months. And you have to get a doctor that says that you are trans enough and have undergone the necessary treatment to be considered your gender. So I got to wait for that. So I can't change my gender marker. So they considered me female. I was roomed with cis women. I was called ma'am all the time because I'm an officer. So just like it was, yeah. Are you prior service?
No.
Okay.
I did a little training in the Israeli army, but that's about it.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
So it's just weird, like being treated as female, and my fellow officers all knew that I was trans, and so they treated me appropriately. It was just everybody else that didn't. But
did you get any pushback from anyone? Like, because I hear oftentimes that there are people that are kind of anti-trans kind of thing. So
I didn't, but I was also in training with only medical officers, and MedCorps is usually a lot more liberal than everybody else.
Well, because they know and understand, right? So
yeah. So I lucked out for now, but I ended up not being able to do all of the training that I needed to this summer. So I finished one class. I graduated from the first class, but I got stress fractures in both my legs, multiple stress fractures. So they sent me home, and I have to reschedule the next training for a later date. But that meant that I got to start testosterone. So I'm not even really mad about it because I'm happier that I'm starting T and not being at the Army. And by the time I have to go do the second training, I will be able to have my gender marker changed. So
nice.
It'll be all good. I know that was a lot of explaining, but
that's okay. We still have 15 minutes. That's awesome that they're going to allow all that to go through for you and whatnot.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
And also something too, the Army currently does not have fitness standards that are different between gender anymore. They've made it all equalized. So now it's just based on your job and what the fitness requirements are for your job. So I'm at the gold standard, which ironically is the lowest of the standards. So I have to meet the minimum requirements no matter what my gender is. And then like infantry people have to meet the highest standard. And so I know it's a great equalizer, and it's nice for the cis women that I know, because I know like cis women don't want to be treated like they can't do the same things that men can do. So like I'm glad that they got rid of that. Because if you can do the job, you can do the job.
Exactly.
So
just want this. Yeah, just making it a whole equal thing. And this is flat out. This is what it is. If you can't get past this, you're just not going to make it in. It's pretty much how it should be, and there should be no gender specific stuff at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Personally, right? So if you want to be in the army, you got to be tough. That's all you got to say.
Apparently, my bones aren't that tough. Aren't as tough as I thought they were. But
yes, but you're a doctor now, so you can fix that shit up yourself.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I know you wouldn't do that. You'd actually have to go to somebody else to do it. But yeah. I mean, if you're out in the field somewhere and you got a bit of a fracture or something, you could splint yourself up and keep going. Right? So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, it's funny to think about. Like, I actually, during my T appointment this week, I'm not used to being a patient anymore because I'm used to being in the role of the doctor. So my doctor was explaining to me, like, just saying like my dosage and stuff and administration. So, and I'm taking notes the whole time. And she's like, hold up, you don't need to take notes. Like, I'm going to give you a handout that has all the stuff on it. And I'm just thinking in my head, like, I got to do these calculations, like, because you have a vial that you have to dose out. And normally I'm the one doing the calculations. And apparently I don't need to do that for myself.
What's a stim pack?
I don't even know.
I have no idea what that is. Sounds like something in a video game, personally.
It does. Maybe I'm a bad medic. Drink more milk. I should drink more milk.
Drink more milk. Yeah. No, you hit a certain age where it's actually probably going to do you more harm than good.
Yeah, and the stress fractures, they actually happen because the Army is really bad at warming you up before doing PT. Mm-hmm. And they literally made us sprint for an hour on concrete. So that is what happened to me. So I don't think I could have prepared for that at all, in all fairness.
Well, how long have you been in the military now?
I got commissioned just this past October, so pretty new. But I'm a direct commission, so I didn't have to do ROTC or like OTS or anything. Like, it was just, if you're in medicine, they're like, yeah, we can use you, and they'll pay through the nose for you. Like, they will do everything possible to get you in. And in fact, as soon as you take the test to get into medical school, like, once the military knows you took that exam, you get emails and calls from every branch asking you if you want to join the military, and it's kind of funny.
Oh, there we go. Hang on. We'll give me one quick second here. Just got to relay something over to Mikey.
Gotcha.
Who finally decided he was going to join us. I'm sure we'll hear what happened. There we go. So he's going to probably barge in here in a second, and we'll just bring him right into the end of the show, because I always do anyways. I always bring him in right like about somewhere between 10-15 minutes before we close the show out and before we go into the after party. Which reminds me, you're going to be good for that, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Then you can get a drink.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do that.
All right, so there he is. He showed up. What's going on?
Hi.
So we'll put you in.
Hello, Dr. Ben.
How's it going?
I had a very big greasy cheeseburger, and I was watching House, and then it got really loud because the dog laid on the remote, and I'm like, what fucking time? Oh my God.
See, he's watching House. He's getting prepped for all the doctor questions he might have.
It's like I knew it was coming.
You knew it was coming. It's lupus.
It's always lupus.
It's always lupus.
It's never,
which
never
is
lupus.
So funny because, like, lupus has very characteristic things, and we would, like, if we suspect lupus, there are very specific labs that we're going to get that are going to tell us if you have lupus. So, like, why didn't you get those? Because they would tell you if it's lupus or not.
But it's never lupus. But it's always lupus.
It's just need to be a running joke with that show.
Oh, it absolutely is. It's funny from my standpoint because there are like 3 antibodies that'll tell you if it's lupus.
Yeah.
So.
3 out of.
Like a lot. I mean, like if we're looking for autoimmune disease, like it's high up on the list.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I'm on blood thinners right now, which is why I'm not actually drinking, right? So that's why I have the water.
Yeah, that'd be bad. Don't fall. Please don't fall.
Yeah, no. I've already, it's weird because my doctor says, "Oh yeah, you got to be careful." They give you a piece of paper, the things you got to watch for, like no running with scissors and all that crap. But they also said, "Don't switch to an electric razor." And I'm like, "What? I haven't cut myself shaving since I was like 15 years old." So I don't know why the hell.
Doctor's orders.
It's scary. It's scary. Those thinners sometimes. I've done quite a few.
Double dose.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I've done quite a few calls where people have fallen on thinners, and it's a mess and lots of brain hemorrhages. So I get why they'd be scared.
Internal bleeding. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, no, I'm not really clumsy. There was a period in my life where I would dare people to try and trip me, and still to this day, no one's been able to trip me. I mean, if you get behind me and crouch down and somebody pushes you over, that old stick, that's a different story. Yeah. That's not really tripping.
And most of the people that I've responded to that were on thinners that had major bleeds were like in their 70s, like already have motor issues, like they're in a nursing home and they don't have their walker, something like that.
Sure.
So
one thing I can say for sure is once I got past all the side effects that blood thinners can throw at you, like the nausea, which was the first 2 days was nausea for sure. And after that, all of a sudden, you ever had taken niacin before and what that feeling that it gives you?
The flushing.
Weird flushing and tingling kind of sensation. I had that for a couple of days after the nausea. And then, of course, the lightheadedness. And if I stood up too quick, it's like, nope, sitting down again. That kind of thing. Right? It hit me pretty hard. So I guess I was that perfect person where they could have studied side effects from this stuff. But now, though, after being on it for a week and a bit, and I'm on to the regular dosage, which is just a pill in the morning, pill in the evening. It's the Eliquis or Apaxaban.
Okay, yeah. That's one of the better ones, too. That makes me feel a little bit better. So.
Oh, it's brand new. It's like a couple of years old at best. So
it was a very high yield one for boards. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, for sure. That's what they put me on. Now there's still swelling in my leg, my left leg, thankfully, because if it was in the right leg, there'd be a big problem. But it's in the left leg, so there's still the swelling. So it has gone down a little bit, and I thought it was like gone completely the other day because I'm looking at it, go, wow, that looks a lot smaller. And then I looked at my leg, okay, no, it's still pretty big. You gotta have the other one there for comparison. But the one thing that I do, because I also got little weird pains here and there, and my doctor said that was probably other little like minor clots that just vanished, and now your veins or arteries or whatever are working properly. So you're going to notice that. So I had these weird couple here, couple there, and it's like really only just a couple, but still. And the way I feel now after being on these things, it's like 10 years disappeared. It's bizarre.
Oh, dang. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's bizarre because now, you know what it is the blood's flowing properly the way it's supposed to be. And I guess it hasn't been for quite some time because the clot, they said, was probably a good 4-inch in my leg.
Yeah.
I had DVT.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's
big.
huge.
So it had been building.
That's scary.
Yeah. And I'm lucky because it didn't burst, right? It didn't break down and suddenly, and then I'd have fucking pulmonary embolisms all over the place, which would suck.
Yeah, especially if you had a big one embolize, you could. I'd be dead. That's lethal.
Yeah, I'd be dead.
Yeah.
So, which surprised me because when I told my doctor about the swelling, he says, "Well, you do have that arthritis issue because I get it in my foot, sometimes in my knees and stuff." He goes, "So why don't we sleep on it? And if it doesn't go down in the morning, get to the hospital." And I did that, and they found it. They did ultrasound on my leg, and
I was gonna say because I would Doppler that right away, and I think I guess some of the older docs don't really use ultrasound in their own office, but I was starting to use ultrasound in my first week of medical school. They're trying to get us
Doppler.
Yeah, Doppler ultrasound. Yeah.
Neil's got a very big leg. You got to use the Doppler satellite.
I'm 6'4" for fuck's sake. So yeah, it's pretty big.
Yeah, so we start using ultrasound early, and I think they're trying to make it more commonplace for us to have ultrasound in a primary care office so that we can, because it's just so easy and it's so cheap. Like, just ultrasound that.
Thank you, Kendra. And Ben loves ultrasound.
I have it in my Twitter bio that I am an ultrasound stan, so I will talk your ear off about the importance of ultrasound and why it is underused.
Now, if this, let's say this, I'm looking for advice from you already here. If this thing doesn't seem to clear out like it should, we'll say, because it's slowly dissolving, obviously.
Yeah.
Because I'm feeling better already. Like I said, it feels like 10 years came back to me. And I'm looking over there at my cane and my cane's just looking at me going, yeah, you just wait, pal. Because I have it because of
rear-ended.
Yeah, because of my back, sciatica, which flares up from time to time because of a car accident. But anyway, if it doesn't clear out completely, they're going to have to go in, aren't they? And like,
yeah, I was just going to say that sounds like
because it is deep vein thrombosis, right? So.
Yeah, because you're outside of a window for any like big clot busters. Because anything like for recent clots, we can use like TPA is what they use for strokes and things, but there's a set window that you have to use for TPA. It's usually like 4 hours. It's kind of the limit. So yeah, I mean, anything prolonged, you're not going to want to use something like that. So I think like the next step would be to catheterize it. So
well, I have an appointment with the hematologist. Sorry, Mikey, on the October 22nd. So 2 days after my birthday, I get to go see this person. And they're going to assess whether or not I have to keep going on the pills, or whether or not they have to go in or whatever.
Yeah.
Now, student Dr. Ben, is it safe to argue that if Neil hadn't been drinking as much as he normally does, it might have made his situation worse because the alcohol was kind of thinning his blood for him?
See, it's a common misnomer, first of all, Mikey. Alcohol actually does thin your blood. Blood thinners don't actually thin your blood. They're an anticoagulant. So don't make your blood any thinner like alcohol can.
The lies that I've been told by the medical community. You know what? I'm going to go charge my moon crystals. I knew I was
But what they do is they keep your blood from clotting.
Oh.
Okay.
Does
but I mean,
help you clot?
There's a lot of angles we can take with this, and this is theoretical. So like, don't run anywhere with this. But let's say someone was to drink a lot chronically over a long period of time, and they were to get liver cirrhosis. You would lose your ability to produce a lot of clotting factors. So in that way, you could also make your blood less likely to clot because you're not producing clotting factors. So I'm not saying
Smoking
to go damage your liver, but I'm saying that is something that could potentially happen.
Yes, absolutely. Smoking can play a factor. Your diet, tons of sodium, that can play a factor.
Yep.
Vitamin K, can play
which
a
is
factor.
Also follows that liver pathway. So
yes, that's right. Yeah, so actually, I'm not allowed to eat leafy greens right now. My smoking has been reduced to less than half to what I used to, and I'm going to eventually weed it right out. I haven't had a beer in over a week, for fuck's sake, so I'm starting to go a little. But I'm not a heavy drinker to begin with. Like, I do a few during the show and maybe a few on the weekends here and there. But I don't like put away an entire case of beer or something in 2 days. Like, mine sit in the fridge and I'll pull 3-4 out and go do my show and have one left at the end or whatever, so. Neil is sober. Yes, that's right, Dave. I am sober.
Yeah, but I will say also, and I'm going to make a whole video on this, but if you have liver cirrhosis, you're also going to have higher levels of estrogen. So I'm not telling people if you need more estrogen to damage your liver, but I'm just saying that it might make your boobs grow. I'm just saying it's a possibility.
That happens, I'll never have to leave the house. between Amazon and having my own damn booth.
Wait till I get this Oculus set up. It's goodbye, Earth. I'm out of here. Crack the code, suckers.
My neighbor's like, "You got this, Neil. Do it for the Enterprise." I'm still playing that Star Trek game I downloaded. I've already wasted well over $100 on this damn game.
Oh, you're
but
that
my
guy.
fleet kicks at. I'm the one that gives the money to all the. I should design my own app so I could make some of that shit back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or we should get ads for the show on the game. So that way it would just kind of cyclically replenish itself if we give it enough time.
What's
Get
the
them
app
to
gonna
sponsor
be?
you.
It's like 3 people will download it. I can outdrink Aaron Raw. Well, Aaron doesn't really drink Native Atheist. He likes his beer, but he doesn't drink to get drunk. So, yeah, you can. So can I. I already have. In person. It's like, Aaron, are you sure you want to offer me beer? I don't know if that's a good idea.
I guess like a little shameless plug for those of you who ever want to just have geeky medical conversations and watch, I don't know, listen to me talk about nerdy stuff. I have started doing Twitch streams where I go through hypothetical medical cases. There's like simulation games for medical students. And I go through them, and occasionally I'm drunk when I go through them, and it's kind of funny.
Awesome.
So,
That sounds like just my shit.
I haven't killed anyone yet.
So do you have a link on your YouTube channel to the Twitch channel?
I don't. I might do that. My one hesitation is because my YouTube channel, I'm a lot more professional on my YouTube channel, and my Twitch channel, I'm way less professional. And I'm scared that my school's going to be like, "What are you doing?"
Well, then you just put for fun Twitch.
For fun. Yeah, that's true.
Fun
Yeah.
stuff, right? So if you want to get a little less serious and just watch me have a fun time and still talk about silly medical things, head over to my Twitch channel. It's
a good idea.
So yeah. Because I do have, if you give me your Twitch channel link, I can add it to the description box.
Oh, yeah.
And,
I can do that.
Because I have your YouTube, I have your Facebook, and I have your Twitter down there already. So that's where you can find Ben if you guys want to friend her or follow or YouTube, watch the YouTube channels, that kind of thing.
Subscribe.
You can, you can head down there and do that. There's links down below. Also, we are going to get into an after party, guys. So if you want to get involved, you can jump in here with Ben, myself, and producer extraordinaire, Mr. Mikey Famine. And
I've had a nap. I feel great.
Yeah.
I do want to get a drink before we.
We take a bit of a break,
party,
so you got time.
Awesome.
And it's a new one. I'll give you a link and
Cool.
to a new one.
Sounds good.
But first of all, dude, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was great.
No, my pleasure. And Mikey, show up next time, damn it.
All right.
I think I missed hitting the hashtag coins like 10 times, I think.
Oh, see? It's a hard gig.
That's it, right? All right, but anyway, before we go, just a couple little notes. First of all, Randolph and I are starting in our own call-in show pretty soon. I think he's still in the chat there. It's called True North Talk. If you want to learn more about it, you can go to www.truenorthtalk.ca. But you can also sub to our YouTube channel, which is the True North Talk. One of the new hosts, or one of the many new hosts of the revamped and relaunched Nonprofits, with one of the ACA products that airs at 3 p.m. between Talk Heathen and the Atheist Experience, and the last Saturday of every month, usually the last Saturday of every month, myself, Andy, and Seamus from Free Thought Profits, and Andy does his own show on Laughing in Disbelief, get together and do Atheist Drinking Out Loud. And of course, this month one, I'll probably have a beer for that one, and I might even have one tonight, but I'll nurse it because, of course, being on the blood thinners, it can be a little iffy if you do that. But if I nurse the crap out of it, I can probably get away with it. And I don't plan on, cutting myself. And I've done it since taking the blood thinners, and nothing comes out. I'm like, wait, where's all the blood that's supposed to be spurting? I'm supposed to turn into a sprinkler system, for crying out loud, when this shit happens.
Like one of those hoses, one of those like drip hoses with like all the little pokes in it.
Yeah, like a beret in the lab or something. But then it's the cat. It's the damn cat. I go to pet him, and he's in a mood, and he's just like, and it's like, fuck you, I'm on blood thinners. That's like, I don't know what that is.
I don't speak English.
And of course, my patrons.
Ba-ba-ba-bum.
You guys are amazing. Thank you for all that you do for myself and the channel. Seriously, you guys are the reason I can do this. It's you guys are just that awesome. All right, once again, Ben, thank you for joining me. And we will get into that after party. If you want to be a part of it, you can hit up Mikey or myself via Twitter or Facebook, and we can get you a link, and you can come and hang out. And as I always say at the end of these shows, like the late, great Christopher Hitchens once said, it's called faith because it's not knowledge. And we'll see you guys next time.
Hehehehe